I remove cataracts for a living. Surgery pays my bills. So this an eye drop should be the last thing I'd want to tell you about. Right now, as I'm recording this, the first American patients are being enrolled in a clinical trial of exactly that. An eye drop designed not just to slow cataracts down, but to possibly reverse them. This isn't a laboratory experiment anymore. It's not a mouse study. It's a real placebo-controlled human trial, and the first patient was just enrolled here in California. Now, before you cancel your surgery, there's a catch. We've seen a miracle cataract cure making headlines before, back in 2015. And when other scientists tried to repeat those studies, they couldn't. Meanwhile, thousands of people are putting castor oil in their eyes because someone on social media told them it dissolves cataract. It doesn't. And later in this video, I'll show you why it can't. So here's what we're covering today. What's actually in this new drop? The one number missing from the company's impressive sounding data, and how to tell real cataract science from an internet eye. I'm a board certified ophthalmologist, and no, I'm not an AI avatar. I'm actually a real person. To understand why an eye drop for cataract would be such a big deal and why most of the cures you see online can't possibly work, you first need to know what a cataract actually is. Behind the colored part of your eye, the iris, sits your natural lens. When you're young, that lens is remarkably clear. Light passes straight through it and gets focused onto your retina. But the proteins inside that lens have an almost impossible job. They have to stay perfectly organized and perfectly functional for decades as those proteins undergo chemical and structural changes. Oxidative stress, protein modifications, clumping, and the architecture of the lens gradually breaks down. Instead of passing light cleanly through, the light starts to scatter. The lens becomes cloudy. That is a cataract. And here is the single most important anatomical fact in this entire video. The cataract is inside the eye, inside the lens itself. Which means wiping the eye, rinsing it, or putting oil on the surface cannot mechanically wash a cataract away. It cannot penetrate into the lens at all. Remember, that's going to matter later. What does a cataract feel like? Blurry vision, glare, halos around headlights at night, trouble driving after dark, colors look faded, and glasses prescription that keeps changing. Today, once a cataract significantly interferes with your vision, we have one established treatment: surgery. Remove the cloudy natural lens and replace it with a clear artificial one. And modern cataract surgery is extraordinarily effective. I perform it every week. But imagine if we could treat the proteins themselves, keep the lens clear, and some patients may never need to go to the operating room at all. That's a scientific opportunity. So how would a drop possibly do that? That's where the scientific study that we're talking about today comes in. On August 4th, 2026, it was announced that Lexita Pharma Services and OCUS had enrolled the very first patient in United States pilot study of an investigational cataract drop called DOC 20117-217. According to the report, this is a multi-enter, randomized, double-masked, placebo-controlled study in people with age-related cataracts. Now those words might sound like boilerplate, but they matter enormously. Those are exactly the design features you want when you're trying to find out whether a treatment actually works rather than just appearing to work. And the first patient was enrolled right here in California by an ophthalmologist. It's derived from a molecule called lanosterol. Remember that name because it's a key to this whole story. According to OCUS, the goal is to influence several of the processes that drive cataract formation: oxidative stress and the misfolding and clumping of lens proteins. So the company's ultimate hope is that it might inhibit and potentially even reverse some of that cataract progression. That's the headline. But this is where we have to be very careful with the language. An investigational treatment is not proven treatment. Enrolling the first patient tells us the experiment has started. It does not tell us the experiment has succeeded. Now, the company also cites exploratory data from China, and this is where I owe you that missing number I promised in the intro. The company reports that between 50 and 86.4% of patients achieve 20/40 vision or better after 12 to 24 weeks of treatment. That sounds impressive, but there's a critical piece of information missing from the public report. What was their vision before the treatment? If the patient started at 20/40 and ended up at 20/40, they'd still count that as a success in that statistic. Without the proper baseline number, it's impossible to interpret. And two more questions matter even more. Achieving 20/40 doesn't automatically prove a cataract was reversed. And ultimately, did treatment delay or eliminate the need for cataract surgery? Those are the outcomes that count. So my read, these are early figures, are interesting signals that justify running a rigorous trial. They are not proof that we already have an effective cataract medication. To understand why anyone is testing this drop at all, we have to go back to 2015 when this story exploded. Researchers published a landmark paper in Nature, one of the most prestigious scientific journals in the world, about lanolol. And the concept was elegant. Cataracts involved abnormal clumping of lens proteins called crystallins. The proteins I told you about that have to stay organized for decades. The investigators found families with congenital cataracts who carried mutations in an enzyme called lanosterol synthase. So they asked the obvious question, if lack of lanosterol is associated with cataracts, could supplementing it fight protein clumping? In the lab, lanosterol appeared to reduce crystalline aggregation. The researchers also reported improvements in cataracts in rabbit lenses and in dogs with naturally occurring cataracts. That created enormous excitement because if you could pharmacologically restore the organization of lens proteins, you wouldn't necessarily have to remove the lens at all. You could treat the biology of the cataract formation itself. For ophthalmology, that would be an entirely different treatment paradigm. So why are we all prescribing Lanister drops today? Well, it's because of what happened next. This is where scientific medicine parts ways with social media medicine. One exciting study is the beginning of a scientific question. It is not the end of one. Other investigators tried to reproduce the Lanister results, and the picture got complicated very fast. In one study, researchers took 40 lens nuclei from real human cataracts removed during actual cataract surgeries. They exposed some of them to lanosterol and some to a control solution. Lanister did not reverse the optical opacity. In another research group examining Lanister and related compounds using experimental cataracts and human lens material, again they could not demonstrate dramatic clearing everyone had hoped for. But that's not the whole story either. Other laboratory experiments have shown that Lanister and related compounds can affect isolated human cataract aggregates of protein. And another compound called VP1001 has produced real improvements in lens transparency and optical quality in mouse models. So this field is not simply Lanister works versus Lanister doesn't work. Honest summary is, biology looks plausible, some experiments are encouraging, others have failed. Getting the drug into the human lens is hard, and definitive human clinical evidence has been missing, which is precisely why this new human trial matters. There's one more challenge that doesn't get nearly enough attention. Putting a molecule into an eye drop is relatively easy. Getting enough of that molecule from the surface of the eye, across the cornea, through the front chamber, and into the lens, and into the exact part of the lens where the damaged protein lives is much, much harder. Remember, the lens has no blood vessels. An older human lens is not the same protein solution in a test tube, or a mouse lens, or a rabbit lens, or the dog lens. A dense human cataract that has accumulated decades of protein damage may be an entirely different target than early opacity. Which means that if cataract drops eventually work, timing could be everything. The future probably isn't a drop that turns a completely white, mature cataract crystal clear. The first useful medication will more likely slow an early cataract or delay progression or work best on a particular cataract type. And you know, that would be an amazing accomplishment if it could. Okay, now we need to talk about castor oil, because I promise you this, and because the claim is everywhere. You've seen the videos. Put castor oil in your eyes before bed. Castor oil dissolves cataracts. It saved me from surgery. My vision was clear in 3 weeks. Well, here's the truth. There is currently no convincing clinical evidence that castor oil prevents or dissolves or reverses cataracts. And you already know the anatomical reason to be skeptical. I told you in the first 2 minutes, castor oil placed on the eye interacts with the tear film, the eyelids, and the ocular surface. The cataract is much deeper inside the eye. Inside the eye, the oil never gets there. Here's an important nuance because I wanted to be fair. Castor oil has been legitimately studied in ophthalmology. Properly prepared sterile castor oil formulation have been investigated for oil gland dysfunction of the eyelid and dry eye. There's even research on castor oil applied to the eyelids for blepharitis. So when someone says, I used castor oil and my eyes felt better, I don't tell them they imagined it. They may genuinely have improved their tear film, and better tear film can make vision feel subjectively clearer. But improving the tear film is not the same as clearing the lens of the eye. The distinction gets completely lost online. Less dryness plus clear feeling vision does not equal dissolved cataract. And please hear this part. Do not put household or cosmetic castor oil directly into your eyes. Products that go in the eye require pharmaceutical formulation and sterility. And we have seen very serious infections from contaminated eye drops. Natural does not mean sterile. And an ocular surface treatment is not a cataract treatment. So what else is actually in the scientific pipeline? Because this new trial isn't the only serious attempt. Let me give you the honest chore, EDTA. There's been a randomized human trial of a 2.6% 6% EDTA eye drop. In a small subgroup analysis, just 41 eyes with early cataracts. The treated eyes showed better contrast sensitivity outcomes than placebo after 4 months. And the researchers also reported changes in the lens density. Intriguing, but small subgroup analysis. Substantial placebo response as well in this study. And it did not show that a drop can reliably reverse a visually significant cataract or replace surgery. A signal worth following, not a treatment ready for your medicine cabinet. So, let's talk about the VP101, the compound I mentioned earlier. Rather than acting as a simple antioxidant, it's designed to stabilize lens proteins so they're less likely to clump. Mouse results were encouraging. Some lenses got clearer, optics improved. But it has not been proven in human cataract trials at all. And there's a whole next generation of cataract eye drops being explored. Stronger antioxidants, anti-clumping compounds, and drugs targeting the pathway behind diabetic cataracts. One particularly futuristic 2025 study delivered mRNA, that's gene therapy, into the eye to make the lens produce its own lanosterol. In rats, this actually improved the cataracts. Fascinating science, still very early. The question for every one of these is the same. Can it produce meaningful, reliable improvement in human patients? While we wait for the science, is there anything proven you can do about cataract risk right now? Yes, there are 5 things. Number 1, do not smoke. Smoking is consistently associated with cataract risk. Number 2, if you have diabetes, work with your medical team on good blood sugar control. Number 3, protect your eyes from ultraviolet light with good quality UV blocking sunglasses. Number 4, be thoughtful about steroid exposures. Steroids are tremendously useful, sometimes absolutely necessary, but long-term use is associated with cataracts. Never stop a medically necessary steroid on your own. Talk to your doctor about your concerns. Number 5, get regular eye exams because blurry vision isn't always cataract. Glaucoma, macular degeneration, diabetic disease, corneal disease can all produce overlapping symptoms, and some of them are treatable only if caught early. So, is this the end to cataract surgery? An eye drop? Well, maybe not. Not today. If you have a visually significant cataract right now, do not cancel your appointment because of a headline about a trial that just started. Surgery remains a proven treatment when cataract is stealing your vision and your quality of life. But should we be paying close attention to this trial? Absolutely. This is exactly the kind of study that the field needs. And here's my checklist as a surgeon of 5 things this drop has to show us. Number 1, show us the drug actually reaches the lens. Show us the cataract objectively changes. Show patients function better, and show us the effect that lasts. And also, we have to make sure it's safe. If those results hold up in large, well-controlled trials, this could be one of the most important changes in cataract treatment in decades, or perhaps even hundreds of years. And yes, it would mean fewer surgery for people like me, and I would be generally fine with that. I'll be following this trial as results come out. Let's break down the actual data and not just the headlines. If you want that kind of analysis, please subscribe. If you've heard another claim about a vitamin supplement, a drop natural cure for cataracts, castor oil, please put it in the comments. It might be the subject of my next video. I'm board certified ophthalmologist. Thank you for watching.